In episode 2, as this mystery woman is on the mend, Till, Layton, and Ben go over the latest model, but it's not great. Yes, while that area is warming, it's not warmed enough for them to actually live there. Maybe in another century, but not now. They have one more spot that they can check out, which is located off the Horn of Africa, and it's actually pretty promising. Josie points out, though, they don't have enough food to make it there, and on top of it, they have another mouth to feed. So Layton knows that they're going to need to go back and reconnect to the train. He's completely comfortable with dragging everybody to this new hotspot to check it out. Till and Alex point out that the problem isn't taking the other train, it's keeping the other train. They're basically going back empty-handed. They don't have Melanie and they don't have proof of a new Eden. But Layton says, we're not going back empty-handed. We have a survivor. He then goes to check on that survivor, and when she wakes up, she's disoriented, confused, and confrontational, understandably so, but Layton calms her down. He explains to her that she's on Snowpiercer, and that is shocking to her because she never expected that train to survive. He starts walking her through the train, but she starts to get a little freaked out when she sees Audrey in a cage. Layton says, that's a long story, and I'm sure you've got a long story that I want to hear too, but first things first. Layton asks for her name, and her name is Asha. Josie then escorts her to a cabin that she's made up for her, and they let Asha get settled before they start questioning her on how the hell she's alive. Up in the engine room, they have an issue because they have no idea where Snowpiercer is. They figure that Wilfred is tracking them, which is correct, but they're going to need to get the jump on Wilfred, and they can't do that because they, once again, have no idea where he is. It's basically like trying to find a needle in a haystack, and it's Ben's headache. For the time being, he's just hoping that he can hop on the main track and track him down that way. While they're trying to figure out how to get Wilfred, Layton is trying to figure out what his vision was of. He heads to the library where Audrey is chained up, and Audrey's questioning him on who that mystery woman was and what exactly he's doing, but he's like a horse with blinders. He's not paying attention to any of it. He goes to a couple of the books and the encyclopedias, and he's able to figure out what it was that he had a vision of. His vision was of something called a dragon's blood tree. After researching it, he goes to Till and he tells her about the vision, how real it was, how he could feel the sun, how he was near the grass. He is convinced that this is the place that they're looking for. The craziest part is that dragon's blood trees only grow where they're trying to get to, the Horn of Africa. Till figures that this dragon's blood tree thing was just something deep in the recesses of his brain, but he tells her, no, I've never heard of this before. Till's suggestion is to keep it to himself, because he sounds crazy. A little while later, Layton brings Asha some food and gets the backstory of how she's alive. She tells him that there were 34 of them to start. Most of them were scientists and, like herself, nuclear technicians. Marauders killed about half of them before they died out, and then the cold and the radiation poisoning took the rest of them. Like her nephew, who was 15 years old and developed thyroid cancer so badly that he was begging her to kill him. He was the last one to go, and that was years ago. She didn't see anybody after that for 4 years until Layton popped up. After getting the story, he heads to the engine, and Ben gives him an update that isn't a good one. Their satellites are slowly degrading. They're still driving blind, having no idea where Wilfred is. The plan that the group decides to go with is to parallel the main line and hope the signal improves that they can catch him on the satellite. But over with the train that they're chasing, their number one fan, Ruth, has some visitors, and that's weird because she's in a part of the train where nobody goes because it's so cold. She knows that Wilfred is up to something, so she has to get word to Pike. The way that she does that is through a rat courier through the pipes. And Wilfred is indeed up to something. Kevin is helping him, as is Mrs. Headwood. Unfortunately, Mr. Headwood isn't there because he passed away. Pour one out for an OG. But the thing that they're helping Wilfred with is an EMP machine. Electromagnetic pulse. Can basically kill all electronics when it's fully charged. Wilfred, however, just wants to test 10% of it. He doesn't want to kill his train. He just wants to make sure this thing works. So he gives the order to count down and see if they can test this thing out. As the EMP is counting down, Ruth, who is one of the closest humans to it, unknowingly, is telling Pike about where this mystery weapon is. It's in the last car where the trains would need to reconnect. As she's telling him this, though, she starts to cough. Her health is deteriorating a little bit. Running around in the bowels of the train, freezing her ass off, is not doing her immune system any good. As they're talking, though, they hear the machine go off, and they're a little freaked out. But Wilfred is thrilled because it worked. There's an electrical jolt throughout the cars, but nothing major to kill any equipment. And one of the reasons it didn't kill the equipment on their train is because of the fact that first class, being completely frozen and empty, is the perfect buffer between their equipment and the machine. So Wilfred is in great spirits. But he's not the only one. LJ and Osweiler are in great spirits because they just got engaged. They're getting married. Yay. As soon as she says yes, LJ tells Osweiler, "We need to go tell Wilfred. He's the closest thing I have to family." So the two head up to go tell Wilfred the good news. And when Wilfred gets the news, he's pumped because he feels like this could be an occasion that the train needs. They haven't had a wedding in a long time and it can boost morale. He wants to do it that day. Osweiler was thinking more of an intimate ceremony, low-key, but Wilfred insists and LJ is pumped about it. So Wilfred just hijacked Osweiler's wedding. Wilfred immediately goes into wedding planning mode, putting up posters and alerting the train's occupants that they're going to be throwing a party that night. But as Wilfred and his team are distracted with this wedding, Pike pulls Zara aside and asks her, "Do you know anything about the weapon that he's building back in first class?" Zara has no idea. She just knows he's up to something. Pike then tells Zara that Ruth saw Javi working on it, so she'd like to make contact with Javi. The problem is, Javi hasn't been the same since his face was bit off by a dog. He's not really talking to anybody. Pike, however, pressures Zara to get it done. Zara heads up to the engine, but it's just like she said. When she tries to talk to Javi, he shuts her out. The only time that he responds is when Zara says that Wilfred wants him down in first class. He tells Zara, "I'm on shift," but she says, "I don't know what to tell you. That's what he wants, so put it on autopilot and go." But when Javi heads down to first class, Wilfred isn't waiting for him. Ruth is. And he is shocked. He, like just about everybody, thought that Ruth was on the other train. She tells him, "No, I've been here the whole time, trying to help out Leighton and our friends out there." She can tell that Javi is in a pretty fragile state, so she tells him, I just need a little bit of your help. Tell me what it is you're working on back there." And Javi tells her it's good to stop Leighton dead. He then just turns around and runs out. But as he's making his way back to the engine, he runs into Kevin. And Kevin finds it a little bit weird that Javi was down in first class. Javi doesn't rat Ruth out. He says, "Well, I was just testing some stuff." And at first Kevin believes him, but then he gets suspicious. Kevin knows that a wedding would be the perfect distraction for anybody. So he grabs a bunch of jackboots and starts heading to first class. And he's right. I mean, a wedding would be a perfect distraction. It's one of the reasons why Ruth, Pike, Strongboy, and Lights, and they're trying to figure out how to disable this thing. Kevin, though, is coming right their way. He's abandoned the wedding, which, by the way, almost didn't happen because Osweiler and LJ got in a big fight, but it went down. Anyway, back to the group. When they hear that Kevin is coming, Ruth knows that she has to do something. She decides to sacrifice herself. She figures that when Kevin sees her, he'll just take her and not search the rest of the train. It'll free them up enough time, hopefully, for them to disable it and give Leighton a fighting chance. Pike doesn't want to allow her to do that, but Pike doesn't have a choice. Ruth hands over the resistance to him. It does work. When Kevin shows up, he's shocked to see Ruth, and Ruth just says, "Yep, here I am. You've been looking for me. Well, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm giving myself up." Kevin then takes Ruth and escorts her to a prison cell. He alerts Wilfred, and Wilfred is excited. He's finally got the rat that he's been searching for. He's a little surprised that it's Ruth, but he starts gloating to her about how he's going to cut her arm off, which to him is the ultimate irony because she had frozen the most arms of anybody. But that's when all of a sudden a massive electric-magnetic pulse goes surging through the train. Pike, Lights, and Strongboy were able to disarm it, kind of. In their attempt to disarm it, it actually turned it on at full blast. They realized they had to get rid of that thing quick, so they literally busted it through the back of the train. When it went off, it affected just about everything, and that includes Leighton's Snowpiercer. But it also gave Ruth the chance to gloat, saying, I wonder what that could have been, and Wilfred knows exactly what it was. That was not planned. He decides not to prolong freezing Ruth's arm off. So he wraps up the wedding and has everybody gather around to make a public display of it. Starts talking about how she was a rat, how she was caught, preparing her all the while. But they're about to get some unwanted guests. Because when that EMP went off, it alerted Leighton and his group to exactly where Snowpiercer was. It gave them the chance to get the jump on Wilfred. And that's exactly what they do. Before Wilfred can freeze Ruth's arm off, the train gets a jolt. Right away, Pike knows that Leighton's group is back. And Wilfred isn't concerned. He completely forgets about Ruth altogether, yells to the people to man their battle stations, and gets ready to go to war with Leighton one more time. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. But once again, thank you for checking out this recap.